Hey everyone, it's Erin with Hail Varsity. I am joined by Derek, also of Hail Varsity, and we are live in Indianapolis, not far from Lucas Oil Stadium, the mothership of both Big Ten Media Days, also the Big Ten Football Championship.
It's also Ohio State's second home.
Oh no, that's already how we're starting here, but...
Well, I mean, they've been here 6 years in a row?
That's true. That's a fair statement. We are here because for the first time, Big Ten Media Days is not being held in Chicago. It is being held in Indianapolis. We will be on the field tomorrow talking with Nebraska. We have Scott Frost available. The three players that Nebraska are sending: Ben Stille, Deontai Williams, and Austin Allen. So you have two defensive players, your six-year seniors, and an offensive player who really wants to be a captain. So, okay, you wrote a piece earlier that is at hailvarsity.com if you want to read it, about some storylines to watch from Big Ten Media Days. What are you looking for out of, to be clear for everyone, Media Days are always a little bit of it's Media Days. So there's some things that just, we're going to talk about certain things and it is what it is. But what are you looking for out of this?
Yeah, there's going to be some weird stuff. This is the opportunity for people to get kind of fun. But I think if the first, if SEC and the Big 12 have showcased anything, it's that this particular media session is going to feature questions that maybe a segment of the college football viewing public doesn't really care for or doesn't want to talk about, which is fine. Most of these are public universities, and so I think a lot of people feel like, the highest paid person in the state, are they getting vaccinated? What are they doing with the team? So I think a big talking point tomorrow, and it'll probably come early because Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren is going to address the media at 10:15, and he's going to talk for an extended period of time. I would venture to say that, there's going to be a lot of discussion about what is the Big Ten doing with vaccines,
protocols.
What is it doing with COVID protocols? The SEC has a threshold that's been set where if your team is 85% vaccinated or above, you don't have to do daily testing. Or
Some don't
regular
have to wear
testing.
masks if they have a certain threshold met.
Which, and I wrote in that piece, I was they will say, hey, go get a vaccine. They'll try to be morally righteous, but in the context of football in this season, it's not as altruistic as that. It's a lot of self-preservation, I would say, because these conferences don't want to have games canceled. The Big Ten last year had Ohio State, Michigan canceled.
They had almost 20% of the games canceled.
Yeah, and if you lose, so for the SEC, you don't want to have to lose the Iron Bowl. You don't want to lose some of your most marketable games.
Because money is involved.
You're going to want these teams to not put themselves in that position. And so the SEC is threatened, we're not going to reschedule games. There's going to be forfeits if you can't field teams. The Big Ten last year made it made its bed as sort of the morally upright partner among the Power 5 conferences. And so I'm really curious kind of what their stance is going to be, what Kevin Warren is going to do, if they have protocols in place that are going to be announced. Because there's precedent here where last year SEC teams had fans in the stands. Big 12 teams had fans in the stands. The Big Ten did not, regardless.
Family members.
The Big Ten did not, regardless of what was going on your campus. It was a top-down mandate. People didn't like it.
And some schools didn't even have fans in the Big Ten at all. Even Rutgers didn't have anybody.
Right. Are they going to operate similarly this year, where they're going to say, here are the rules. This is what we're doing. We don't care what's going on your campus. So I think that'll be the big story. There's obviously going to be a bunch of talk about NIL stuff.
Yeah, name, image, and likeness. Something I've learned is NLI, National Letter of Intent, is not the same thing as NIL. So if you're somebody who's why is everyone talking about National Letters of Intent lately? NIL.
I'm excited to get some coaches' opinions on, potentially expanded college football playoff. This will be the first time we'll be able to
now, if you're,
talk to some of those guys about that.
I was going to say, if you're somebody who wants to hear from somebody who's been to the college football playoff, like Ryan Day, he does not speak until Friday. So you won't get necessarily that perspective until Friday, but that will come about within these next 48 hours.
And someone like Dabo Sweeney, who, an expanded playoff would only increase the chances that his team is going to go to it every year. He made, I guess, mini waves in college football when he said that he wasn't for it, his team wasn't for it, which I found really interesting. And so I think we're going to get, I wouldn't be surprised if we hear some coaches that say, yeah, our players aren't for it. One of the big things with that expanded playoff proposal was that it's going to add a bunch of games to the schedule. And so maybe teams have had discussions about that already and the players don't want that. And my stance at the time was like, let's figure out what the players think.
Yeah.
And this will be one of our first opportunities to do that. And so that's something that I'm looking forward to. And then, with Nebraska specifically, we'll be able to ask Scott Frost questions that, we asked him in the spring. I don't know how much has changed between, now and then, because they don't start fall camp until after. But, we'll be able to ask him, what's going on with potentially running back. Are they healthy at running back? We'll be able to ask him sort of how he feels about just skill, position, talent on the team as we get closer. Just kind of what is his, where's he at? Like, what's the temperature check with the team as we get closer to fall camp? Does he still feel as good about them as he did in the spring, or has anything changed? So we'll get an hour with Frost. We'll get some podium time with players. We'll get a bunch of time to ask a bunch of different questions.
Yes, and I do want to point out something when we talk about players and also the selection for this. If you are somebody who, to what Derek is saying about skill players or different, different position groups, you might be thinking about quarterback and, hey, why isn't Nebraska's quarterback here? Why isn't Adrian Martinez at Lucas Oil Stadium for Big Ten Media Days? I do want to just say one quick little caveat in all of this. This is a vacation week for Nebraska football because they start fall camp next week. Because week 0, you get 29 days prior to your first game. I can't remember the exact specifics, but you get so much time.
Basically start a week before you normally would.
Right, so they get to start early, long story short. But Scott Frost has said if a player already had vacation time scheduled to see family or to go do something, he was not going to ask them to have to come back so that they could come to Big Ten Media Days. Also, with that said, Adrian has done Media Days twice now. I think this just signals that Adrian is no longer the starting quarterback and that there's going to be a quarterback competition in the fall. I think that's what this signals. Right. I would say I wouldn't think too much into it. If you want to listen to what Derek is saying on that front and take it and run with it by all means, but
I hate to go with this team, sorry, because I feel like everybody gets mad at me because this is sort of the team that I go with, but OU didn't send Spencer Rattler to Media Days, so it happens.
He's already gone to, like I said, Adrian Martinez has been at Media Days twice in his career. I'm excited to actually hear from 3 new people who haven't been at Media Days before. I think Deontai is going to be a particularly really interesting individual to hear from. In fact, we could just actually sync him up with Bill Carollo, the head of officiating for the Big Ten, and who they can talk about targeting and just talk that through and see what they think. But no, Austin Allen has been somebody who's been saying he really, really wants to be a captain. This is an opportunity for him to really test that, to show he's ready to be that captain for this team. So I like the lineup that they brought, and I shouldn't be remiss not to mention Ben Stille. I feel like he's in line to be a captain as well.
Yeah.
It feels, hey, if you haven't seen the Hail Varsity yearbook, he's the cover subject. So, of course, big time for him to be at Big Ten Media Days. But
5 of the 6 players that Frost has brought with him to Media Days since he took over as coach have gone on to be captains.
Yeah, so it feels pretty, and that's not to say that Adrian won't be a captain. It's just, again, you only can bring so many people, and also if he already had, time to spend with family scheduled, they weren't going to ask him to come back. Trev Alberts, Nebraska's new athletic director, will also be in Indianapolis. He was on his way on Thursday, or it is not Thursday, it is Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
I have no idea what day it is anymore. But he was on his way to be here for Thursday. So, we'll certainly hear from him as well. I'm sure he'll talk about everything from COVID protocols for Nebraska to NIL as well, and then just probably diving into more specifics on his new job, which he just started just a few days ago, Monday. So
he just hired a new director of diversity and inclusion. Yep. I imagine he'll get questions about that.
Mm-hmm.
And just on some of the players, I think it'll be. I'm really looking forward to talking to Austin Allen he's a player that he's a big developmental success story for this coaching staff. The numbers aren't awesome. They don't jump off the page, but they think with another good year, he could be a potential NFL guy. And that's a cool story for him and where he came from and his background and things like that. And, like you referenced, he said in the spring he wanted to be a captain. And so for him to be here sort of representing his team, I think is sort of a culmination of a lot of the work that he's put in over the last few years. He's really grown up a ton, and he's
really
sort of become like one of the voices of the offense. Last season after tough losses, games that were tough on the locker room, he was one of the first guys out there speaking to the media. And so for him to kind of be in this position now, I think it'll be really interesting to sort of hear what he says. And it seems like if you listen to Travis Fisher, Deontai is sort of the same way for the defense.
And I don't want to pat us on the back too much, but Austin Allen is also featured in the Hail Varsity yearbook. So we obviously just are really good at identifying the individuals to speak about. Because I was also going to say, one person that did surprise me a little bit, I think, if Deontai hadn't been the person, I could have seen Cam Taylor-Britt absolutely being an option to come to Big Ten Media Days. I think he would have certainly been a Media Days darling. I think he would have definitely had the personality for it.
He would have done well in this environment, yeah.
But I think because of that, knowing that, I'm actually even more eager to see Deontai, because he tends to be a little bit more reserved, but I think he'll do well in this environment as well. But I was saying that because you interviewed Cam Taylor-Britt and all of the family members around him for a story in the yearbook, which is great. So basically this video is just one big promo for the Hail Varsity yearbook. Check it out. I'm just kidding.
It is a promo for the website, though, because we will have lots of stuff from tomorrow, and then from Friday. I'll be sticking around Friday.
I'll be here for partial Friday.
To just talk to some coaches. This will be fun. This is always... like the day Nebraska goes, we're kind of running around, kind of stressed out, trying to make sure that we hit everything. And then like the day that Nebraska's off, we get to talk to some other coaches, and it's just kind of it's a little bit more of a relaxed environment. I'm curious what it's going to be like at the football field as opposed to like
ballroom.
In Chicago. Yeah, we're in a ballroom. I'm curious what the setup is going to be, how maybe like intimate the interview sessions are at the podium. You could potentially be able to get some good stuff. I'm going to try to ask some coaches just sort of what they think of Nebraska's offense, what it's been, what has been consistent with Nebraska's offense. Not a ton, but what they've seen.
And some of you have even passed along questions that you would like to be asked. So if you are watching this and you think, hey, this would be a kind of neat question, would you mind if the opportunity presented itself to ask? Obviously within reason, but by all means, please leave comments in the video, on this video, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or you can tweet at us. He'll be at Dr. PDHV. I'm at Erin Sorensen. I almost flipped those, by the way. It took me a second. And then you can also always tweet at Hail Varsity and follow us along, because we'll have all the news. Kevin Warren is actually, the Big Ten commissioner increased his time from a half an hour to 45 minutes. So I imagine there's going to be a lot from that. We will have a good amount of time with Scott Frost and the players. So again, if you have questions or things that you just want us to keep an eye on, by all means, leave those comments below, wherever you're watching.
Tweet them at me. There's somebody that I think that this has been a running joke for like a year or more straight, where they keep wanting me to ask Scott Frost if he's a Busch Light guy. And I think this might be the setting to do it.
You are quite literally in a stadium where Busch Light might be served.
Yeah,
for all
I think this might be the setting to do it.
Well,
so we'll see.
You heard it here first.
You have to read to find out.
You'll have to read. So go bookmark hailvarsity.com. We will be up bright and early on Thursday morning and again on Friday to bring you everything from Big Ten Media Days. Follow him, Dr. PDHV, on Twitter. I'm at Erin Sorensen. You can always, again, follow Hail Varsity at Hail Varsity. But seriously, bookmark everything. We'll have a lot. I'm excited to share. This is always a fun event. There's a lot of good information that comes out of it. There's also fun information that comes out of it. So
there's also a lot of style.
Ooh, the style is good. Yeah, I'm actually, who's my surprise pick out of Nebraska's 3 players to come who might have a really interesting outfit?
Well, Deontay's obviously gonna have an interesting. He's a defensive back, so he doesn't.
But I'm saying
you think Austin Allen?
Austin Allen.
Yeah, I think Austin Allen too. He seems like a guy that's gonna have a good sock collection.
sometimes we do rank the outfits because we have to have a little bit of fun in this sport. Please do not go, why does it matter? Because at the end of the day, maybe it doesn't, but it's fun. So let's have a little bit of fun in the midst of all of the hard-hitting news as well. That is certainly what we do. We have some fun. Yeah. Any final words?
No, it should be good. It should be interesting. I'm curious what the vibe is with Frost. It's funny because we didn't have a media days in 2020 because of COVID. It wasn't virtual, it was just canceled altogether. So the last time Nebraska was in this setting, the last time Nebraska was at this event, it was picked to win the West, which was in 2019.
See, I thought you were going to say they were delayed by weather, which
well, that too, but they were picked to win the West. And by Cleveland.com, it does that poll since the Big Ten won't. This year, Nebraska's picked 5th. Just ahead of, I think, Purdue and Illinois. So it's not really where you want to be in year 4 compared to where you were in year 2. So I'm kind of curious what the reception is going to be for Frost, what kind of questions are asked of him, sort of what his demeanor is, and just sort of how he takes in this environment. So lots to look forward to. Well,
we'll be there at hailvarsity.com, so go ahead and bookmark that. Again, Dr. PDHV, at Erin Sorensen, at Hail Varsity. But for Derek and myself, we appreciate you. We'll be back. There will be plenty more videos. And also, make sure you check out Hail Varsity Radio. Chris Schmidt is also live here in Indianapolis, and we'll have the radio show live from Indy as well. So be sure to check that out. And we'll talk to you really soon. Thank you.